David and Franklin. How are y'all?
Hey,
Excellent.
good
How are
man.
you today?
So we got to ask the question that everybody wants to know, and that is, how long have y'all been together, and how did y'all first meet?
I met Franklin through a mutual friend. Um, I had just gotten out of a 7-year relationship and was just starting over and moved to New Jersey with a friend of mine who's also Franklin's friend. At the time, Franklin was still in a relationship, but my friend always hosts these grand weeks for his birthday. So every day there's like three different events you can go to. And he was like, friend, just come out the house. Don't be sitting all depressed about your breakup and stuff. Come on out. So we actually went to Park where She by Sheree was left by her man in Philly.
But she's looking dumb, waiting for Tyrone to call her back.
That's the restaurant we went to.
Uh-huh.
So we went to the restaurant and Franklin and his then partner were there because they were celebrating my friend's birthday. And I met him there, but I'm not a messy type of person. So I was like, oh, he's handsome. He seems really nice. Oh, that's great. Cool person. Kept it moving, right? So then some time went by.
And to be clear, this was 3 years ago.
3 years.
And then
So some time went by,
mhm.
and
And
then
then so basically my relationship ended and we were always friends, getting to know each other more and more and more and more. And then I just think there was a mutual attraction and a mutual love for things.
yeah,
And we just kind of gravitated towards each other. So fast forward to Oscar night 2 years ago. Yeah, that's the first night where we were like, okay, this
yeah,
is
it's like
romantic. Like,
can I spit?
right. Okay, come on over.
So what was happening? So I'm also an actor in Philly. So at the time I still worked full time when I try to, we're creating content and stuff, but I never gave up my full-time job. So it could be a little exhausting. So I would be in rehearsals or performance of a show, and then I would go all the way back to New Jersey. So that means catching the Paco train to the very last stop and then getting in my car and then driving an additional 15 minutes to get home. And I was doing this every night and still going to work, waking up 5 o'clock in the morning
It's
to
too
be to work
much.
on time.
Wow.
So yeah, so after doing that for like a month or so, Franklin lives closer to the theater district in Philly. So I was like, can I just crash at your place? Because I just do not feel like taking that journey all the way home. So
Sure, it was about the end of jobs. He didn't want to stay here with me, but sure, it was about the
I was
job.
being practical.
Uh-huh. I guess
So,
I guess that's all you were being. Okay. Just practical.
but I will say on the Oscar night, now I will say on the Oscar night, I did plot. I did plot. I'm not even gonna lie.
I
So he had like champagne or
think
something.
it
He
was
had
wine,
it was
but
me, our mutual friend, his friend. So I was like, this is what I'm gonna do. I intentionally drove to Center City, parked at his place, and I was like, I'm gonna keep throwing them back. I'm gonna throw them back until I can say, oh, I can't go home. I'm sorry. Can I just stay here?
and I'm like, okay, all right.
And the rest was history.
He hasn't really gone home more than like 3 days since then. So
Got
yeah,
him.
right.
So it worked. So your plan worked.
It did.
Cheers. Hmm.
We have couples who've been together for 2 years. We have some who've been together for 30. And so
Hmm.
at this point in your relationship, is it still a bit of a honeymoon phase, or are you starting to see the parts of each other that you have to work through things on?
I feel like we're starting to see the parts of each other that we have to work through. So the honeymoon phase is over. But well, no, because I'm putting the context.
I know.
So here's the interesting thing, though. So I know some couples get a little uncomfortable when the conversation of the ex pops up,
Yes.
but both of us were in long. How many years were you with?
Almost five.
5 years. I was with my ex for 7 years, So that is a point of reference for me. And I learned a lot about how to love someone and how I would like to be loved. So oftentimes if Franklin does something or he moves in a certain way that reminds me of the ex, then I'm able to vocalize, hey, that kind of like triggers
And
me.
this is why.
And this is why, because this was my experience and I've learned XYZ.
Mm-hmm.
So throughout these changing dynamics and us getting to know each other even better, I feel like we have a healthy form of communication between each other, and nothing is ever left um, off the table. So I feel like we can speak to each other honestly and openly.
Mm-hmm.
That's just my perspective of it. But what do you?
I agree, and it's also about intention. Nothing's ever said to make another person feel bad or jealous.
Right.
I think it's always a reference because a lot of times I'll be like, "Why did you just respond like that?" And he's like, "Well, if you really want to know, this is what happened." And it really gives me a point of reference where I'm like, "Oh, I don't want to make him feel like that because those aren't my intentions toward him. So I'm going to do everything I can to make sure he doesn't go back to that place." And I think he does the same for me. So we use the X thing as opposed to run away from, you'll get couples that say, don't bring up anybody you ever been with. But for us, and every couple is different, I just don't think that's healthy. I think you deal with things straight on, head on, and you can move through things,
Yeah. So it's always a constant dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope that we always maintain that.
Yeah.
It's just checking in with your partner, like, hey, are you happy? Is there anything that I'm doing, or is there some way I can support you?
Mm-hmm.
Or are we still on the same page here?
Yeah.
It's just a constant checking in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, it seems to be working.
Yeah.
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 I'd say. Yeah.
Yeah. And he said leading with love, something I learned from my previous relationship is be careful about what you say because you can't take it back. And I would have these conversations with my ex when we get into arguments, when malicious things were said. I would like be very careful what you say because we might recover from this argument, but you're planting seeds. It's like death by a million cuts. You know what I mean? Eventually, if you keep chiseling away at me and using things against me, and we keep spitting fire at each other, then there's going to be nothing left here.
Yeah.
So you have to be very intentional, be impeccable with your words,
and just careful. You should speak to your lover. This is what I think. More sensitive than you would speak to anybody else. More carefully. They are the person that you want to be with the rest of your life. So why would you ever want them to feel bad? You know what I mean? So even when you're upset, I just feel like it's really important to take a breath. You have to come back to it, or however it works for your couple. But we just really try to be careful with each other's feelings and hearts.
And we've had arguments.
Yeah.
We're not this perfect couple. I know we're like goofy and laughing and joking.
Yeah.
That's just our nature.
Yeah.
Music theater boys.
Mm-hmm.
But there have been times where we've had arguments and I've been pissed, like thoroughly upset with him, but always ended the night with saying, I still love you though, right? I'm angry, but I still love you.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that real quick. So it's great that y'all are transparent about the arguments. That really is good to be open and transparent about that. What have been some of the arguments, or what has been the biggest argument, and how did y'all manage to work y'all way through it?
So I'm not sure if it's the biggest, but it's one of the first times where we had a uh-oh moment, and we were still getting to know each other. It was maybe a couple months in, maybe had been dating for like 3 months. And I don't know what happened. I think that I was still trying to figure him out. And I just talked to him in a way that was aggressive. And it wasn't even like me. I was still trying to figure out what he liked, what he would accept, his boundaries. I was kind of testing him in a weird way. And I cussed at him. And immediately, immediately, I knew I had messed up, but he made it very clear I had messed up. And it was not like we can just brush this on the carpet, don't say that again. He literally was like, if you're going to be with me, you are not going to talk to me like that. If you have a problem with me, you need to express yourself in a mature fashion, but I am not going to receive you talking to me like that. He made his boundaries completely clear, and I have never talked to him like that since. And it's not even in my character. I just think there's always this idea that sometimes you have to be harder with people,
right?
To be the cool guy. You know how they say nice guys always finish last? Well, I'm a very nice guy. So in my head, I was like, should I be tougher, have more of an edge? But what I realized with him was I can be myself. I can come as I am, and he'll love me and accept me. And I'm not used to that in my past situations.
That's why the conversation about exes and past dating experiences are so important, because who you've had these engagements with really does form how you view relationships, what you think is normal, what you accept. You know what I mean? It's all shaped by the people before, So that's why I think it's so important to bring those things up. So like you can have a point of reference, you
Mm-hmm.
understand exactly where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
You know everything that has gotten me here.
Yeah.
So we can be better with each
Mm-hmm.
other. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
And I've had exes where you had to be like that. You had to like get them all the way together. He's just not one of them. And I realized that in that moment, I was like, oh wow, I can be my sweet, goofy self and we can resolve these conflicts without trying to like read him, you know.
It sounds like you both are finding a bit of healing in this relationship too.
Oh, immense, immense. I actually just said to him today, I said, I've never felt, this is how I knew it was right. I've never had a moment in my life where I felt like I was surrounded by so much love, and not just love from like a partnership, but love from my family and expansion of my friend circles, like really understanding what that feels like. And I honestly, to swear to God, learned that from Franklin. I feel like the love that I experience in my life is an extension of him and how he treats me and how I'm just allowed to just be myself and all of my weird quirks and isms. You know, it's just accepted. In the way that he loves his family and the way that he loves his friends, I respect that so much. And I aspire to do that in my own life. So in many ways, he's making me a better person every day. And that's the God's honest truth. Because I could be a cold-hearted lone wolf and be okay with it. But I'm recognizing that, you know, you need people. You need a support system. You can't do this by yourself. Life
But
don't work that way.
I think he forgets though the love and all that. He already had it in him. It's just sometimes he has to be reminded, like, all right, come on, we're gonna be nice. We're gonna hang out around
Yeah.
people. We're not gonna, stay in our cocoon. We're gonna put ourselves out there. But we balance each other out because he keeps me grounded. And he's like, nope, too much socializing. Let's rein it in tonight. We don't want to do this because we have to,
Do this.
prioritize.
We have to do this
Right.
tomorrow, so we should not do that.
So he definitely balances me out, and we talk about that all the time. And I think that's why it works because it's like a constant yin yang push and pull,
Yes.
And because of that, we can navigate things objectively where we're not one way or another. We can kind of bounce off each other and see what the best course of action is. Yeah, yeah.
One thing that it's really clear to notice is you guys both are huge personalities, and so
Are we?
yes, and
That's
y'all
the
allow.
biggest thing anyone has ever said.
Put your hair out.
What? I'm ready.
and y'all completely allow each other to be each other's selves. So how did you learn how to do that, and how do you make that work?
I remember being up so much this is when I knew staying up with Franklin and singing music theater karaoke. Like we're singing Dream Girls and songs from The Ways and Aida and Les Mis. I'm like, oh, I can be my goofy self with this guy. But also, like, I remember he threw a surprise party for me on a boat called the Mooshaloo. Have you ever been on the Mooshaloo when you visited Philly?
No.
Okay, so it's a swanky restaurant. It's a boat. It's actually in the pier. Very nice. I had never been there, had always seen it. He surprised me with a dinner there, had some friends there. But I remember at the end of the night, as we were walking to our car, and this is on video, like this is like in the beginning stages, we were doing like 8 counts, like Broadway combinations, like as we're walking, like doing Shanae turns. And I'm like, this man understands my language. You know what I mean? I've never been so comfortable with someone and being myself,
Yeah, I think that sums it up.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. No.
Let's talk about family. How was it introducing each other to each other's families and larger friend circles?
They're so loving and kind. And I love his family. They love each other. They really do support each other. My family is very loving too. But my family's just a little bit different. The family dynamic is just a little bit different from Franklin's. So I wasn't sure how he would be received. I know my family loves me, but I didn't know would it be something that would be easily accepted. I didn't know if I could have casual conversations with my brothers and sisters about my partner. I didn't know if I could talk to my mom. I didn't know if I could talk to my dad about that. You know what I mean? So everyone knew I was gay, and they've always known that I've had boyfriends, but I seldom would bring them around because I just never
Hmm.
felt comfortable. Um, but Franklin was the first person. This is another way I knew. Is the first person that I've loved this much where I felt comfortable enough to bring him around both sides of my family, my father's side of the family and my mother's side, who are both very different. And it was a moment of bravery for me because I was
Yeah, he was nervous.
very nervous. But I was so surprised. We went to a New Year's party for the
It was
Bazemores
amazing.
on my dad's side of the family, and my dad was interacting with him, addressing him by his name, telling him where he was hiding the hooch, like underneath the table, where to go get it. So, and
Yeah,
then
the party was lit.
yeah, my cousins coming around, like offering edibles and stuff, like little nice things to eat. And I was like, I just didn't think that it would be received this way. I thought we would come and we'd be there, but we would still be separate in a way. Like I
Mm.
didn't know that they would
They're
come
awesome.
pouring into us. I didn't know they would come to me. I thought we would be in the corner. I honestly thought we would just be sitting in the corner watching the party happen around us.
Not at all. I felt the love.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they were great.
I was surprised.
So we've
What
had similar experiences with each other's families. Yeah, yeah.
do you guys think there's a misconception about Black family and sexuality? Because we hear a lot of stories where families are accepting or at least curious. So do you think there is a misconception about how Black families and the Black communities accepts and understands Black gay sexuality?
It definitely is a real thing. I don't want to say that that's not true, that doesn't happen at all, because it definitely does. But I just think we were one of the lucky ones.
Yeah, and that was the biggest fear I had meeting my father's side of the family, bringing Franklin around because they are very religious. And I love that about them. But it's like literally one half is Muslim, the other half is Christian. And they are both equally devoted to it. So I just didn't know how we would be received. But I think for me, beyond that, at the core of it, and I had this realization too, I just don't want to disappoint my father. Isn't that weird? Like I just feel
Not
Mhm.
like
weird.
whatever society has defined as gender norm for a man, how I'm supposed to behave, how I'm supposed to present to this world, I felt like that in me being my true self was a disservice to my father and his legacy. And I felt like it would affect how his siblings viewed him and his siblings partners, and you know what I mean. I didn't want my father to be the pariah
But
for having a gay son.
he's
You
so
know?
proud of him though. Is the fun, not the funny part, but the ironic part. Like
Yeah.
he was so worried about that, but his dad expresses his love, and
Yeah.
he loves the hell out of
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, so
So
it's amazing.
So how did you and your father manage to work through that? And how did you find the courage to be yourself and face the possibility of disappointing?
It took some time. When I officially, came out to my parents, it wasn't received in the gentlest of ways. I think it was received to the best of their understanding and
Mm.
their world perspective, their world view. So that's all they had to give me. It wasn't mean, but it wasn't like, oh yeah, you're good. Come on, like, it wasn't any of that.
And I don't know how many Black parents really are that open with it. A lot of times it's like, well, I still love you. We'll be all right. It's gonna be all right.
So
Right.
It's like, well, this isn't the end of the world, but
I'm not trying to talk negatively about my parents, but that just wasn't a conversation that was had with me. I knew it. I inferred it that my parents still loved me regardless, but I did observe some changes in how they interacted with me. So when I was growing up,
and
yeah,
that got
yeah,
better.
yeah, it
Absolutely.
did get better.
Yeah, yeah.
It did get better. So it took some time with my father and some
Mm-hmm.
conversations, but
Mm-hmm.
we're good now.
Yeah, he's great.
That's why I said the party was an amazing come through because I'm like, oh, this is it. We made it finally.
And I think life has a way of softening you in terms of your thought. You just evolve. We've evolved.
Yes.
They've evolved. My parents, my family, it just once they see over a course of time, it really doesn't make a difference.
Because I've always been the same
What
person.
you are, you're still the same person. We still love you. You're still the talented, creative, smart guy you always were. People realize that over time, and they're like, "Wait, what? Why was I making this a big deal?"
And exactly, that's what it needed. It needed time for them to see that it changed nothing
Yeah.
about me.
Yeah.
I have not changed.
Yeah.
I have consistently been myself for a very long time,
Yeah.
which is what I'm very proud of because, I just won't bend to
Mhm.
what people expect of me. I'm going
Mhm.
to do what feels good to me.
So you two also are a team. Y'all work to create some amazing things together. Currently, the Deloach and Gene show, which is winning awards and doing very well on the media and film festival circuit. Let's talk about that. What was the inspiration for this show, and tell us about it.
Oh man,
I'm gonna try to keep it as short as possible, because there's a lot to say.
it's a lot.
But I just think it was birthed out of, we both are theater kids and we both love media, TV, film, music. So we had a lot of things in common.
Mhm.
And our humor is kind of complementary.
Mhm.
So I just think after a while, I started just like writing for us. We started coming up with concepts together and
There were little vignettes
little vignettes.
on TikTok.
And that was definitely completely collaborative. And it was just our personalities. He'd come up with an idea and we write it down, or I come up with an idea and we write it down, and then so we would just put it on, TikTok or whatever, and we just felt good doing it. It was good. We were spending time together. We loved it. It was our art. We were in control of it. Nobody was telling us what to do or how we had to do it or
No
when. It
rules.
was complete. That was refreshing to me because I grew up doing theater like him. He still performs actively in the city. He's great, by the way, but I had kind of stopped maybe before the pandemic, and I wanted to be artistic, but I didn't want to do what I was usually doing. So this was like a very good creative outlet where I could kind of be in control of my art. And so eventually, us doing those little vignettes, it kind of evolved into a full-fledged show because I was like, we have something here.
Mhm.
I want to like flesh this out. So yeah, we kind of just came up with this concept, and then I started just writing episodes, kind of with the storyline. We kind of charted out the storyline for the year, the season, or whatever. And then we had an appearance on Kelly Clarkson. And so everything kind of just
Happened at once.
snowballed.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So we were talking about like, oh, we got something here. Wouldn't it be cool to see like a show that's kind of like I Love Lucy, but
Will and
we're
Grace.
Will and Grace. It's like was more like Will and Jack, but we're flipping it. We're showing two black gay leads in these positions
Mhm.
now, and I don't think America has seen that before. And usually, like in the media, we were talking about how usually if they're like queer stories, it's usually sometimes over sexualized or it's very heavy. It's about like AIDS or something very dramatic or being ostracized from the family. I was like, why can't we just show people that black people, black gay men can be silly, goofy nerds and make people laugh, just like Will and Grace could, Lucille Ball could,
Yeah.
Carol Burnett could. Like, why couldn't we do something of that nature?
And to be to be clear, we're not shying away from those hard truths, but we are just trying to do something where that doesn't define us. Where any of those, those things still exist, maybe, maybe not. But what I'm saying is, these situations could happen to anybody. So your mom, your daughter, your son, white, black, Chinese, these are universal themes. And so that was important. We just happen to be gay men, you know what I mean? So it doesn't define it, but it just is what it is. We're just existing as ourselves. Yeah.
Yeah. And he mentioned the Kelly Clarkson show. We were in LA on vacation and he got tickets to the show. In a very long story short, he ended up in a chair that won money. And we had rehearsed that morning. We had said, oh, we're going to go on the Kelly Clarkson show. We're going to be the best guests. They're going to want to talk to us. I was like, rehearse what you're going to say, baby. Say it now.
We said it.
That morning. So when it happened in real time, first, Franklin was complimenting Kelly and she was like, no, this is about you. What are you guys up to? We're like,
this is on TV. She's like, thank you for the compliments. Because I'm saying, oh, I love you. You're a great singer. She's like, okay, thank you. She's cracking up, by the way. The clip's online. But then she goes, no, tell us about you. So we had already talked about the show. Yeah. So it was like, oh, this is like perfect. So I told her about the show. She said she would have us back. So hopefully that happens where we can talk about it on TV again. But yeah, it seemed like everything lined up and happened for a reason. I don't know. It was a great moment. But yeah.
And what's so interesting, I know we're talking a lot about the show, but what's so interesting is the season 1 is a rushed version of what our original vision was, because once we got on the show, then everybody went and added our TikTok page, and now everybody's waiting for something. We're like, oh, we gotta write some shit. So
Yeah.
we wrote some things
Yeah.
down, and we were editing and filming every week for almost 2 months, right?
Yeah, maybe
Putting out,
three.
yeah, it's like nonstop.
Yeah.
So the second season is more true to form of what we originally
And
envisioned
intended.
for this project. How it's captured, and the story is much more flushed out, and it's more cohesive, and there are more people involved. So it's evolving, and it's exciting, and I can't wait to get the feedback from these festivals, because I would really love to know how to make it better as we continue on.
Yeah.
You know, we really support and celebrate both of you here and the great work that you're doing. So for our viewing audience who want to tune in, how can they check it out?
We are on YouTube. Literally, just type into the search engine the Deloach, Deloach, and Gene, Gene show. That's YouTube, the Deloach and Gene show. And then for TikTok,
Deloach and Gene show. So same thing without the.
And so we post it in parts on TikTok every week. But if you can't wait and you want to see the full entire episode, you can go on YouTube. Every Sunday, we drop new episodes.
Yeah.
In our conversations, we end with a Joseph Bean quote, which is, Black men loving Black men is a revolutionary act. And so sharing this love that you two are building together in your home, and also how you share it with your family, with your community, and the media that you two are creating. Why is Black men loving Black men so revolutionary?
It's not the easiest thing to do. You know, there are so many situations, you know, if we were a man and a woman, that's just what society expects.
Yes.
So, you know, it's just so easy to just exist in that and not have any pushback. You know, oh, you're bringing your girlfriend home. There's going to be no pushback from mom or grandma or your uncle. In our cases, just depending on what the family dynamic is, what the church ideology is, you know, it just depends on what your situation is. But it could be some ramifications. You could be kicked out. You could be, you know, there's so many things that could happen as a result of just loving who you want to love. So I just think it's revolutionary because you're living in your truth, and you're basically saying, regardless of what happens or what the outcome is, I'm going to live my truth. And that could mean a lot of different things, but I want to be true to myself. And I just think that makes it revolutionary.
I agree. You know, it's a scary thing. You know, be true to yourself. That's all you can be.
Yeah.
So ditto.
Yeah.